I'm one with the Force is with me. 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 Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Directed by Gareth Edwards and starring Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Alan Tudyk, and a bunch of other people that I would really excited to talk about. Okay, so this is the first Star Wars movie that I've been excited to go see in theaters since 1999. That is insane. Those prequels really beat the shit out of me. Because, like, when I was a kid, I was introduced to Star Wars, I watched the Star Wars, I enjoyed them. But Phantom Menace ruined it for me. But I still went and saw Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith in theaters, but with just less and less enthusiasm with each one. Mostly because, like, with the original ones, you had the trench battle, Hoth and Empire, and then Endor in Return of the Jedi. There really wasn't anything like that in the prequels that like stood out to me that much. I mean, Attack of the Clones had that gladiator scene, and that was pretty much it. For Force Awakens, I only went and saw that in theaters because I had made it a week out after the movie came out without having any of it spoiled for me. So I didn't think that was going to last. So I figured, I got nothing better to do Christmas morning. I might as well go to the theater. Okay, so you remember in New Hope how Princess Leia had Death Star plans, and that kind of kicked off the entire saga of bringing down the Empire. Rogue One tells the story of how the rebels got those plans. Basically, Felicity Jones' character, Jyn Erso's father, was conscripted by the Empire to build the Death Stars. But at a certain point, her father, Galen Erso, played by Mads Mikkelsen, finds a sympathetic pilot, a cargo pilot, played by Riz Ahmed, who he sends his old friend Forrest Whitaker, aka Saul Guerrero, to try to warn the rebels about the Death Star. And as a result of that, the rebels break Felicity Jones out of prison so she can go talk to Saul. And then using her connection to her father, she keeps pushing further and further through the planets working on finding the plans. I mean, first she starts off on Jeddah trying to find the pilot. Then she moves on to Edu, which is where her father was working. And then finally to Scarif, which had the actual plans located. Those were the three main planets. In the beginning, it jumped around a lot more. There was a bunch of text popping up on the screen telling you where you were without any real understanding of how big that chunk of the galaxy is, where these planets are in relationship to each other. Not really necessary, but I don't know. I kind of didn't like it. Okay, so the plot is kind of spread out a little bit, and it's not too hard for me to follow, but it's kind of difficult for me to recount to you. So I'll just skip that because I really want to talk about the actors and actresses involved in this. Starting with Felicity Jones. I like Felicity Jones a lot. I saw her in Theory of Everything, and I honestly was having trouble telling whose movie it really was. Was it about her dealing with his problems, or was it about him and his life? I honestly felt it was more her story than anything. Diego Luna, who originally was just a Will Ferrell joke to me, but I don't know, after Milk and what was that other one I saw with him in? It doesn't matter. I'm not real familiar with Diego Luna, but he was good in this. Everyone was good in this, but the next person on my list was fantastic, Alan Tudyk. If anyone ever remakes A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, hire Alan Tudyk to play Marvin because he does robot really well. I've been trying to impersonate him, but I'm not coming up close. I loved K2SO. He's like the best robot I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie. The expressiveness with his eyes and just his honesty in general. He it's not that he doesn't have a filter. He says what's on his mind as a result of being a reprogrammed Imperial droid. Donnie Yen played Chirrut Imwe, who was like a Force monk. He wasn't good with the Force. He just believed in it a lot and trusted in it and had faith with it, which was opposite of Wen Jiang's character, Baze Malbus, who they said that he used to be a believer, but now he's kind of the Han Solo type. He's all sarcastic and he doesn't believe the Force is going to be the great magical energy that it is. So his dynamic with Donnie Yen was amazing. I would love to see like an origin story movie with just those two guys. You know, starting off with them just being guardians of the Force Temple or the Kyber Temple or whatever it was, showing Baze split from the religion, but their friendship was close enough that it didn't matter that they had differing ideologies. And Riz Ahmed, who I was most looking forward to because in the trailers I was given the impression that he was going to die fairly quickly. But he had a lot to do in this movie. I loved him in Four Lions. As soon as I saw him in the trailer, I was like, Brother Oma! So I was definitely looking forward to seeing Bodhi Rook. But yeah, he was the pilot who defected from the Empire to warn the rebels about the Death Star. And then Forrest Whitaker played Saul Guerrero. Well, first of all, Guerrero, I'm pretty sure that's Spanish for warrior. I'm not sure why they're using Spanish words in Star Wars, but oh well, you can't beat all of George Lucas out of it. And I've never seen him do anything. He was kind of the opposite of how I saw him in Arrival, where in Arrival it felt like it was a role that could have been better portrayed by Denzel Washington. This was a role that could have been portrayed by Morgan Freeman, but I think Forrest Whitaker actually did a better job. I feel like Ben-Hur was trying to do that, where they just went with Morgan Freeman for the obvious role when someone else probably could have done it better. It was not as obvious a choice. Mads Mikkelsen played her father, and he was good, but not terribly present. I honestly liked him more in Doctor Strange. And the villain was Ben Mendelsohn, who played Orson Krennic. And at first, I was like, oh my god, I get to hear Ben Mendelsohn's like authentic Australian accent. And then as the movie went on, it started slipping a lot. And I think he might have been trying to go for a more posh Southern British accent, but the Australian kept slipping out. I don't know, I thought he had better control over his accent than that, just based on Place Beyond the Pines. That was the core group of Rogue One. You know, they had Mon Mothma, I'm pretty sure entirely digitally reconstructed Peter Cushing. I think he's dead. When I saw him on screen, I was like, he's dead. But the CGI was good enough. I didn't worry about it. They redid Princess Leia, and it kind of looked like a different person entirely. So that might not have been CGI. That might have just been a lookalike who was touched up a little bit to maybe imitate her more. But I think that was a digitally re-edited Carrie Fisher. And then Darth Vader, his first appearance, his first cameo, he walked on, he did his threatening shit with Orson Krennic. And then when he was force choking Orson Krennic, I was like, oh my god, this is cool. And then he follows it up with a fucking pun. He says, don't choke on your aspirations. And I was like, a fucking pun? Darth Vader is known for, like, scary dialogue. Not one-liners. But then he totally made it up for it at the end when he was just... the one lightsaber bit, well used. I loved it. This movie gave me more of a range of emotions than Force Awakens, especially. Because I went from the highs of their battle scenes, especially the first one when they're in Jeddah, and Chirrut Imwe is flipping around doing stuff that makes me really, really want to see the raid. I had a lot of fun with the fight scenes and everything, but then I also had a lot of really pit of my stomach depression from certain deaths. Like, it was what I asked for, though. When I left this morning, I was like, man, I hope everyone dies. And then as I was watching them all die, my heart was breaking. I mean, they killed off K2SO first. That was too much for me because he was my favorite one. And then they killed off Chirrut, but I already knew he was going to die because Jessica Chobot told me. I wasn't surprised by his death, but I had trouble understanding where it was going to come from because he seemed invincible. But I guess you can't dodge an explosion. Riz Ahmed, when he exploded, there was just dead silence in the theater, and I just said, Bodhi. And the guy next to me was like, I felt him move away from me a little bit. And then everyone else died except they had a misdirect with Cassian Andor, with Diego Luna's character. With Baze, they kind of killed him off screen, so I thought, no, maybe Cassian is dead. But then he came back and saved the day. only to stand there holding Felicity Jones, not in a romantic way, I don't think. I'm sure someone could argue with me if they wanted to, but I will assert that that was purely, we are about to die. Let's just stare into it together with some human touching. It was a lot like the ending to Melancholia, except for a planet wasn't smashing into it. It was a Death Star just shooting a small beam at it. I like that though, because it was like with the escalation of things going, where you had a Death Star and it blew up Alderaan. And then, so in Force Awakens, they're like, oh, we got Starkiller Base. It's bigger than the Death Star, and it can kill 5 Alderaans. This one, they're like, we have a Death Star, but we're only going to use 1/5 of its power. And we're only going to blow up a city and then a base. And the explosions were huge. So overall, I got to say, this was the best Star Wars movie I've ever seen. And this was the most fun for me. I cannot wait to get it on Blu-ray. I can't wait to show my friends. So that's all I got to say about that. I really wanted to see Miss Sloan last weekend, but I was crazy sick. Still am a little bit, since we don't have cars up in these parts, so I have to literally load all my stuff onto an alpaca and then lead it along the terraces to the movie theater. So if I'm not feeling good, I don't want to call in sick to this job because I actually enjoy it, but man, it sucks that all the good movies come out in the winter when I'm miserable. So anyway, I'll see you.